Well, as everyone knows, the aviation industry has become much more global in nature. And that's why the relationship that RTCA has with EUROCAE is so very important. And it's not just important for RTC and for EUROCAE as individual entities, it's also important for the entire aviation community, as it truly facilitates information sharing in the areas of communications, navigation, surveillance, and air traffic management. In November of 2014, RTCA and EUROCAE first signed a memorandum of cooperation that formalized that relationship between our two organizations. The aim of this was to better that coordination of equipment standards development between the US and Europe. And today we're going to re-sign that agreement, but before we do that, I'm pleased to have the Secretary General for EUROCAE, Christian Schleifer-Heitengardner, to join us. Christian's going to share an update on his organization and standards development in Europe. So please join me in welcoming Christian to the stage.
Thank you very much, Terry. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Quite a difficult slot I have here because the morning was exciting. There were topics like supersonic aircrafts. Then at lunchtime we spoke about space travel, we spoke about cybersecurity, now we had the drones, and you know what? Now we speak about standards. So that reminds me on my first day as Secretary General of EUROCAE, when the chair of the board came and said, Christian, congratulations, but I tell you one thing, standardization is not a very sexy topic. Neither we are the center of the universe, so have fun, go out and promoting what we are doing. So he was partly right, but I think what we are having today is that standardization organizations have their place in the bigger picture of aviation, and I think they have a good place. And especially RTCA has shown for a long, long time, we are there for nearly 60 years, but not as long as RTCA, that this has value and this is adding value. But what we're having today is, and what we heard today is, that the environment is a little bit changing, yeah? And we have to adapt. And is it really changing? And what do we have to do? So EUROCAE, you might have seen in the last couple of years, has changed a little bit, and we still are in the process of adapting for the needs to serve the community today and tomorrow. Terry introduced today in the morning the first thing, what happened last year, what kind of changes RTCA went through the last year. That shows a little bit what we are looking into the next couple of years. But we are not developing standards in isolation. We have seen there are topics coming up, but normally we try to complement the regulatory frame. And I think his name was John from the FAA. At the first panel, he said performance-based regulations, we are going in that. And we have clearly statements from the certifying authorities, FAA, EASA, ICAO also, and the other major ones. We want to go more performance-based regulatory frame. We want to have an operation-centric and a risk-based approach to our regulatory frame. And that's really happening. And we have newcomers, and especially those newcomers where we have new regulations, they are addressed exactly this way. Drones, and as we speak, we are preparing a workshop in Paris about VTOLs, supersonic aircraft, space travel, space-based solutions, software, cyber. All those areas are not addressed in a conventional way with prescriptive regulatory frame. We have to change. And all those new areas bring newcomers. They don't speak the same language. Something like me trying to speak English with a very strange German accent, but they are also not speaking our language, and they are acting a little bit different. And we have seen that creates a little bit of conflict. So we have to adapt. And we try to adapt not the usual European way, because we are the world leaders in making simple things very complex in Europe. Yeah? So whenever we have a simple thing which comes on top, we add an additional layer which makes it more complex. Really, we can learn from these newcomers to look from a different angle and make it simple and easier. And I think we try to do that. And we're coordinating that with RTCA. But this new structure and this new way of having a regulatory frame has more needs for standards, believe it or not, because what does it mean, a performance-based requirement, a performance-based rule? The regulator shows us the level of safety and gives us a direction. How to comply? There are several ways. One way is to follow a standard. That might not be the only way. One acceptable means of compliance, most probably not the only way. So that means also more demand on standards. And we see that at EUROCAE, we are growing by at least 10% the last 6 years. So we have doubled in the last 6, 7 years our work. And a little bit different, we have a lot of activities in the ATM area because we have more ATM systems, which makes it even more complex in Europe. So, from another side, on how we try to address that, and we have heard a couple of times humans in the loop. We always know that the human is very critical, and when we have technical solutions, we have to add the extra layer of making it more mature, because to trust the technical solution is something difficult for a human to understand. So what we try to do when we have solutions, human-machine interface, and have a focus on the operational improvement at the end of the day. But what do we want to give the pilot? And I'm a pilot and an engineer, I can say that, yeah? Give the pilot at the right moment the right information to make the right decision. So this is essential for us. It's not that we are trying to overrule that, to automate autonomous flying, but the pilot needs at the right moment the right information to make the right decision. And that might also apply to an air traffic controller. And that means automation. 20 years ago, you might remember, Global Aviation Safety Plan, we have the accident investigators. What was the main cause of accidents? Controlled flight into terrain, correct? How did we solve this problem? We created something to warn the pilot before he fly into terrain. It needed a second step. Yeah, we had the TAWS, Terrain Avoidance Warning System, a database with terrain, forward-looking function. So actually, we reduced controlled flight into terrain as a cause of an accident close to zero. If we look in the Global Aviation Safety Plan, what's the main killer? And ICAO has a very nice term for that, the main killer innovation. What's the main killer innovation today? It's runway safety, or? So we have the same with runway excursion, yeah? I commute between Paris and Vienna with my little airplane, and I have nothing to do for 4 hours because the autopilot is flying, and then I come to the most critical part, the landing. And the moon is not very easy to land sometimes. You're a bit fast, you're a bit... So, and the runway and the airfields is very often short. So you have to make this critical decision now. Do I bring the aircraft on ground? I need to go to the toilet, so there's a good reason, yeah, after 4 hours. So there are some reasons, and I want to go home, yeah? So again, we need at the right moment the right information to make the right decision. And maybe give him, and that was one of the reasons we had a standard now developed, runway overrun alerting and avoidance system, to give exactly this information to the pilot to make the right decision. And we follow the regular way. So that means we have a standard, minimum operation performance standard, that goes into a TSO, ETSO, and then we might have an operational requirement which says, okay, from a certain year on, every aircraft needs to be fitted with one of these equipment on board. So we also spoke about disruptive technologies. So always we think, okay, if this comes, and I like the presentation this morning on supersonic aircraft, and I think that was a disruptive technology when we introduced jet aircraft, because he showed us, 6 times more traffic, we doubled the traffic here, and so that was really disruptive. Do we have anything disruptive in front of us? We thought we had, I'm not so sure, artificial intelligence, blockchain, machine learning, automation, autonomous flying, eventually autonomous flying, but I think the acceptance of the community is not there yet, but that might be the way. So, no, disruptive not. On ATM side, I think UTM, as we spoke before, is not a disruptive technology, but it might shake a little bit the ATM system. And Carlos said that. So the ATM system is something which is well established. I think we are not looking from the right angle at the moment what's needed to operate drones and to integrate the drones. But not this alone. UTM is something which we might have more and more coming up. But there is high altitude operation, high altitude traffic management. We have space traffic management. We have everything around air traffic management. And some of them are crossing one traffic management through the other. Yeah? So, and we had this example, we don't want to close an airspace for 4 hours when we launch something, even if we have an increase by 20% per year. I think we need to find a solution to have a good integration for that. And this is something where the different areas, again, have to work together. The different languages, we need a translator for that. So that's something we're looking into and shaking up a little bit the ATM system and see what we can learn from other solutions. Something totally different and from a totally different angle was what we did on remote towers, you know. Freaking cold area in the north of Sweden. Yeah, there was an airport, and they needed a controlled airport for 2 operations a day. So you want to stuff a tower there to be fully operational, and they had the idea to do it remotely. That was the idea. Today, we are far away from this idea. We are at virtual towers. Virtual towers gives you so much more information with all the sensors we are having today. Not only our eyes, the visual contact we have outside is what you give you the information. You have sensors, all kinds of sensors. You don't need visibility to make it visible. We have states, we have ANSPs declaring officially we will not build a conventional tower anymore in this country. We will only have virtual towers. A whole industry has grown based on that. There was no requirement, there was no regulation before, there was an industry need for that, an operational need for that, and that was driving it. And the Standard Developing Organization became the platform of interest. All the community met here, and only slowly the regulator comes in and says, okay, we have more and more of that, maybe we need to have a regulation for that. So, it's still growing, this community. So what does this mean for us? We had to change. RTCA has to change. We still need to change. What is changing for us? We have seen the expertise, and especially for me, you know, EUROCAE, we are 10 employees, you are 10 employees, something in this area. And by the way, we are not smart enough to develop standards. The experts, you are the ones who are the smart guys who are developing those standards. So what we have to do in the background is making sure you have the process and the procedures in place. And we have to streamline those to make it quickly to the market without compromising the quality of our standards. And that's the crucial behind. So we really tried to tweak wherever we could to reduce the administrative burden and maximize the quality time for our experts. And that's what we did the last couple of years, and we are not done yet. We have now a project called the Lean process. We still work on that and try to implement that. Again, no compromise to the quality of our standard today. But maybe we don't need a 700-page standard. Maybe we can do it with less pages and focus on the essential thing. What hasn't changed for us, what Terry said, our partnership with RTCA. This is something which worked well and is still working well. And we take this extra effort to make this happen and to serve the community, because this is some kind of a guarantee that the acceptance we have worldwide with our standards, because we are both open for worldwide participation. We have a transparent and open process. We have an open consultation process where people can comment, and at the end we address all those comments. Both of our organizations are not commercially driven. We serve our members. It's not our target is not to develop a standard so that we have a standard. Our target is to serve our community, to serve our membership, to have what they need to have in order to certify and to satisfy them. That guarantees us worldwide recognition, worldwide application of our standard, and helps us for global harmonization and worldwide interoperability. And even this cooperation between RTCA and EUROCAE, we speak with one voice at ICAO. And I think that was a very good example last year at the Air Navigation Conference where we, ARINC, SAE, RTCA and EUROCAE, presented one common paper which was very well received. Thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for listening. And hopefully I have no questions, but I will be around if you have one. Thank you.